about to experience the worst energy supply shortage this country has ever had in modern times. We're already feeling the pain of sky-high prices for energy. But on top of everything else that's going wrong in this country, the U.S. aging power grid cannot keep up with demand anymore, and extensive power outages are expected to occur as we head into the summer. Even worse, reserves of other energy supplies, including diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, and heating oil, are already hitting the lowest levels on record, and a widespread shortage of such fuels is threatening to bring the U.S. economy to a halt. These are serious issues that are reaching crisis levels and are going to impact our collapsing domestic supply chains as soon as next month. We must expose what is truly going on right now before it's too late. But before moving on, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our future videos. We are looking at a nightmare in terms of global diesel shortage that will shock people starting June. One industry insider warned on Sunday when diesel inventories on the East Coast were at 18 million barrels, which represented only about 3 days of demand. However, on that very day, diesel supplies ran down to less than 10 million barrels. And they continue to decline further and further with each passing day, leaving the United States in a very risky position. Without diesel and other middle distillate fuels, our trains and trucks can't run, and the lack of transportation services can push domestic supply chains over the edge in a matter of days, but cause damages that can last for months or even years. Even a moderate shortage of fuels would be paralyzing for the U.S. economy. Already, soaring prices for fuels have been contributing to inflationary headwinds due to their vital role in the American and global economy. At this point, retail prices for gasoline in the U.S. are up 45% compared to a year ago, while diesel used by American truckers skyrocketed 75% over the past 12 months and just hit another all-time high a few days ago. The fuel is not only essential for tankers, trains, and trucks, but also for many industries such as farming, manufacturing, metals, and mining. In essence, diesel is the fuel that powers the economy, as explained by Patrick DeHaan, the head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy. Higher prices for fuels are certainly going to translate into more expensive goods, he said, given that these increased costs will surely be passed on to consumers, especially at the grocery store, the hardware store, anywhere you shop, he added. Simply put, the impacts will be felt all across the economy. Fuels like diesel, heating oil, and jet fuel are called middle distillates since they're made from the middle of the boiling range when oil is turned into products. Currently, the U.S. distillate inventory is at the lowest level in over 10 years. The decline is even more acute on the East Coast, where stockpiles have hit the lowest point since 1996. Adding fuel to the fire, no pun intended, the East Coast relies heavily on other areas of the country for refined products, as DeHaan noted, and we're now competing with buyers from all around the world for these same fuels, especially European countries, as they turn away from Russian energy supplies. As prices surged, we continued to export diesel to other countries without ensuring domestic supplies or replenishing national reserves. There has been outright panic buying of diesel, exposed Anthony Gurney, CEO of product tanker owner Ardmore Shipping. The world is really crying out for diesel. That's causing refinery margins to spike, added Lois Zabriskie, CEO of International Seaways. At the New York Harbor, diesel and jet fuel are now trading well above $200 per barrel, according to UBS. However, the higher profit margins may not be as beneficial as they seem because refiners can't just ramp up output to meet surging demand, and utilization rates are already above 90%. Over the past few years, U.S. refining capacity has notably decreased. In June 2019, the largest refining complex on the East Coast, Philadelphia Energy Solutions, shut down following a fire. In other words, we may end up being left without diesel to export and to attend to domestic demand. While climbing prices at the pump can deter consumers, businesses cannot simply back away from diesel. If a company needs to get goods from point A to point B, it has to pay those higher prices. Tom Klotzer, head of global energy research at OPIS, explained that in previous years, a barrel of diesel was typically sold for $10 above the price of crude oil. Today, that differential, it's known as the crack spread, has jumped from $10 to a record high above $70. It's become untethered, unmoored, a little bit unhinged, he said. He continued to say these are prices we're not used to seeing, revealing that diesel at New York Harbor is now trading around $5 a gallon, while jet fuel prices at the harbor, which usually mirrors diesel prices, are around $6.72. That equates to roughly $282 per barrel. These are numbers that are not just off the charts, they're off the walls, out of the building, maybe out of the solar system, he stressed. Last Friday, retail diesel prices soared to the highest point ever, after hitting a new high every single day of the past week. The national average for a gallon reached a record of $5.51, and considering that refiners are being incentivized to make as much as they possibly can, this could lead to tightness in the gasoline market, pushing up the high prices consumers are already seeing at the pump. In the meantime, consumers can expect prices for goods to keep on rising. It's going to be a double whammy on consumers in the weeks and months ahead as these diesel prices trickle down to the cost of goods. Another piece of inflation that's going to hit consumers. Gas Buddies DeHaan continued, highlighting that the full impact of the recent surge in prices has yet to be felt. At the same time, electricity shortage warnings are spreading across the country. The Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MESO, which operates in 15 states across the U.S. Central Region, is alerting that capacity shortages due to soaring summer demand might result in outages. Over the past few days, several states have seen triple-digit temperatures, and several power plants were forced to go offline for maintenance. In a recent report, the experts with Wall Street Journal described that grid instability and increased risk of power shortages this summer comes as fossil fuel power plants are being retired more quickly than they can be replaced by renewable energy and battery storage. Power grids have started to retire conventional power plants fueled by natural gas, coal, diesel, and nuclear power to green forms of energy such as solar power and wind. But that transition is happening without the establishment of a stable green energy system. So things are not working as well as planned. When we take a moment to think about it, why are we racing to retire conventional power facilities in the midst of a growing global energy crisis? It does not make any sense. Renewable sources are also unstable. As the experts explained, wind and solar farms are unreliable sources of energy because when the wind does not blow and the sun does not shine, power is not produced. And there needs to be storage for electricity. However, the technology for wide-scale battery storage is not feasible right now. While a large amount of battery storage is under development, regional grid operators have lately warned that the pace may not be fast enough to offset the closures of traditional power plants that can work around the clock. On top of that, speeding the build-out of renewable energy and batteries has become an especially difficult proposition amid supply chain challenges and inflation. This is a transition that should happen over the course of many years as the new system becomes resilient and reliable. California may enter a state of emergency again this year as the state's Energy Commission warned that this summer California will likely face supply gaps that could leave millions of people without power during peak hours. This imbalance in the grid is due to the lack of power generation and could last several years. From Texas to Indiana, many other electric grid operators are warning that power generating capacity is struggling to keep up with demand, a gap that could lead to rolling blackouts during peak periods throughout the year. Over the past 2 decades, power outages have more than doubled in the U.S., as we have faced more destructive storms that cripple broad segments of the nation's aging electrical grid, according to U.S. Department of Energy data. At least 40 states are experiencing longer outages, and the blackouts can be harmful and even fatal for the elderly, disabled, and other vulnerable communities. Moreover, power grid maintenance expenses are increasing as utilities upgrade decades-old transmission lines and old equipment, and that means that customers who are hit with more frequent and longer power outages are also paying more for electricity. The convergence of all these factors means there's not gonna be enough energy supplies for exports, nor to power up our industries and meet consumer demand. Why aren't the alarm bells ringing? This is going to affect each and every one of us. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the population still does not understand what's happening, so they aren't taking any steps to get prepared for the horror that's coming. We've never seen anything even close to this, and it's safe to say that the energy supply shortage is only going to intensify as the months roll along. It was inevitable that a day of reckoning would come, and now our nearly depleted national reserves of energy have greatly accelerated matters.